invite you to get into a comfortable position, and with your eyes closed, make some adjustments in your physiology. So you may want to stretch or undulate, deepen your breath. Just see what wants attention or awareness, what part of your body as you scan through your system wants to adjust for more ease, more pleasure. And allow your breath to be pleasurable. So notice if there's any restriction or contraction, and just let it go, soften. From the inside out, soften, release, drop down towards the earth. And imagine dropping grounding cords down through your tailbone. So let the earth hold you as you extend down through multiple dimensions, through the underworld, towards the electromagnetic field. So you may want to feel the core of the earth calling to the core of your cells. And a few more breaths to draw nutrients up through your roots. So you can imagine your grounding cords, your roots are actually plugging in to the minerals and the energy that's in the earth. And your inhalation draws that up through the base of your body, through the central axis of your spine like a tree trunk, towards the heart. And let your heart branch out. First in the direction of your beloved, feeling the energetic bond, the energetic branch and tendrils and vines, and just feel the connections there that feel good and nourishing, the healthy connections. But also branching out in the direction of everyone you love. Branching out in the direction of all of humanity. Follow the heart through to the collective heart. And extend up through the branches on the crown of the head. Extend up towards the cosmos for a few breaths so that you're reaching towards the celestial bodies and the nutrients and the star stuff that we get from the various moon, sun, planets. Feel yourself, locate yourself amongst these stellar beings. And a few extra breaths, reaching beyond into the mystery, beyond space, towards the center of the universe. And just feeling the void or the black hole at the center of the universe, calling to the void in the center of your own atoms. in the center of this earth. Take a few breaths to presence the dark energy that is infused and animates all space and form. And finally, gather your attention into the heart, feeling both the dark energy in the heart, the potential there, and also feeling the light body of the heart reaching out, connecting, co-creating with other beloveds. And as today's theme, we're going to start to reach into consciousness and the infinite intelligence. I'm going to invite you to locate in the deep heart the wisdom of the heart. The heart has an intelligence to it, a consciousness, a knowing. So last few breaths, really welcoming in the truth of your heart. And as you come back, I'm going to invite you to turn your attention to your partner. Take your time to give them a squeeze and greet them with a kiss or a hug, welcoming them into the deep dive call. So you can just squeeze your partner and hold them for a moment as we tune into the group. So what our spirit guided journey that we're on is evolving, and what came through very strong and clear for this week's talk is not actually what we had planned, but it's so deeply informed by this exquisite journey that Michael and I've just been on with we just came back from Alaska, where we were on a ship with shamans, and there was a real sort of a mastermind of what's happening at the edge of evolution in the area of relationship. And there was a lot of downloading and exchanging medicine and upgrading of cosmos. And since the theme of the month is sort of this intelligence, I'm shifting it to not intelligence, it's the intellectual compatibility was where we were headed. And I'm like, let's really look at the consciousness and the conceptual frames of relating that will deeply empower and inform our reorganizing of these evolutionary partnerships. So, to start off, we thought about a metaphor. And the metaphor that we're working with is it's so profound, because it's like metaphors are like analogies that help us understand reality, or maps of reality sometimes. And this is actually a deep cosmology that is really not just a metaphor, it exists in reality. We want to talk about the relationship of Earth, and how it rotates around the sun, as we know. And we all know there's like a Copernican revolution. Did you want to share?
I have something that came up in the meditation too. If you want to do your kind of frame of it.
Go ahead first.
Okay. So just in the meditation just now, as you said, feel into the black hole at the center of our galaxy.
Mm-hmm.
A vision came up for me, and it was remember when you were a kid and your dad would take your hands and swing you, and swing you around, swing you like airplane or whatever, grab your leg in your hand and swing you. You guys all remember that? And I was feeling about that, that it's a lot like the gravity and the way we all came from the sun, right? And the sun came from the center of the galaxy originally. All of the matter that's here, the scientists say that. And so that feeling of being swung around,
the centrifugal force.
Yeah, that centrifugal force, and you can feel that attachment to your father who's swinging you around. And the moon is the same. Like the moon is going around the earth and it's being swung by the gravity. The gravity is just like the arms of the father, holding the moon in place as it goes around. And then the earth, as it goes around the sun, is in that same cosmology. It's being held by the gravity of the sun. But there's also something that's going back and forth. And the sun is also sending out this energy, just like the father is sending out that energy and that love. And you could feel the warmth, that's coming out from the father. But the sun is doing the same thing as it sends all of this energy to us. The center of our galaxy is the same. It takes 200 million years for us, for our solar system to orbit around the center of the galaxy. And the center of the galaxy has that black hole that has so much energy there. And there are energies, though we can't feel them, like we can feel a father, but those energies are there. And those are the deepest and the dark energies that are coming from that center, from the center of the galaxy. So that was what came up when you said that this morning.
Yeah, I appreciate the the immediacy of that. That's just coming through right now. What Michael's pointing to, and what I am mapping out is that we used to think that the sun went around the earth, and there's the Copernican revolution, right? And it's like, oh, the earth's actually going around the sun, and people think of the sun as the almighty center. But what we know now is that the sun is actually rotating around the center of the universe. So the sun is in rotation. And that shift in our own cosmology, because right now we're a culture predominantly solar focused. We're a solar culture. And so there's like this, a lot of the patriarchy, for example, or putting the versus the lunar cosmology, which is more feminine matriarchy. But there's a lot of things that are like, oh, it's very sun focused. But when we put the sun and the moon, masculine and the feminine, and we get that they're going around the center of the universe, the dark energy at the core, which is way beyond, it's way out in the mystery. It's way beyond, any of our current conceptualization, but we start to orient not towards the sun as the center of our universe, but the dark matter, black hole. Then what gets reorganized is our inner orientation towards matter, life, the meaning of life. And this is profound for relationships because, and particularly for our deep dive, right? Because collectively we're doing a massive phase shift. And this is the going from the Piscean age to the age of Aquarius. And, whether or not you have studied astrology or believe in it, what's important to note is that we collectively in this deep dive group are pioneers of new paradigms of relationship. We all know that. That's why we were attracted to each other. That's why we're pioneering this. We're working on this. And our paradigm is actually from the future. And by that, I mean, it's more Aquarian in nature. The Piscean relationship is, it's like the two fish, and it's the marriage, the couple, it's very couple centric. And the Aquarian relationship is actually more of the intentional community and the open relating and the it's rearranging to be more inclusive so that we're tribal in our orientation. And so we're using the stars and the cosmology as a metaphor to kind of lay the foundation of what we want to talk about today. But the essence of it is, as always, we want to know the truth of our heart. Like there's a incredible intelligence that is implanted in our being, whether that's like, by the stars or by, our own nature genetics. I mean, as Todd brings up, it's like we've all got like these various ancestral streams that make us uniquely who we are. But how do we design our relationships so that they are, they match the shape of our heart, that they are true reflections of our true essence, and not our culture and not our wounding, but ultimately we want to co-create relationships that fully express our, our true nature and our potential. And so, the point of today's talk, and I'm going to, I hope to blow you away with kind of like, here's some of the best of what we know in relationship design, but is really making a series of distinctions and talking about different relationship styles, because we want to empower you in your partnership to actually co-create your vows, and to know that like it's up to you to be like, what do we want to vision together, and to truly redesign from an empowered place that reflects, uniquely us. And so the intention of this call is to reorient the partnership to a higher truth, and to upgrade our understanding, and to rewrite our vows. And that's going to be through a series of conversation about various frames, so that you have all the tools, and then you get to do that on your own.
Yeah, something that was helpful for me when we were on the cruise, they were talking about some of this cosmology that was like way beyond, what I was believing in. And, my skeptical nature was all, just like, what, how is all this happening? And June,
he was like,
yeah. So one of the things, June 21st, 2020, there's going to be an alignment of the moon, the sun, the earth, and the center of the galaxy.
And an eclipse at sunrise.
Yeah. It's going to be like this big thing. And I was looking at this chart going, okay, what does that mean for me? Why does this line, because these things are lined up, what does that mean? And what was helpful for me was the person who described it to me, he said, okay, you're aware of it now. Just the consciousness of it, there is the consciousness, because just like the people in ancient times, they didn't know that there was a center of a galaxy. They didn't know there was a galaxy, right? And now that you know that it's there, that is the consciousness itself, right? And so your level of consciousness has risen because you know that that's happening at that time. And that settled it in for me, where I was like, okay, got it. They're such subtle energies, and I appreciate the subtle energies, and I'm wanting to feel those. And just the knowledge of that was enough for me.
Yeah. Yeah. And one of the commitments that we made to this class is like, we're really interested in transmitting what we know absolutely works. So it's not like, oh, we went off on a workshop and we're bringing back something new. It's like, this is at the deep center of what the mystery school that we belong to teaches. For those of you, most of you know about ISTA, but the mentor that Michael's speaking of is Bruce Lyon. So I just came back from, Tal and Alex were there, which was really sweet. But we did a level 2, and he was actually leading this cosmology exploration on the ship. And I spent many hours with Bruce in the last month really working on wild love, which for those of you who've heard it or not, it's like sort of like this download. He's a channel and a visionary, and he got the download some time ago that wild love is this initiation movement, kind of global movement that is going to be kind of ignited by this alignment that Michael's describing on this summer. And one of the, kind of like the closest thing to relate it to would be the summer of free love in the, in the 60s and the 70s, like, oh, there's this free love movement, right? And I think that was initiated by Woodstock. but what's the difference? Because that was that's 50 years ago now. And that was a time in which free love, like consciousness kind of woke up to, like, the Aquarian age sort of started 50 years ago, the transmission started, but it was a reaction. It was a political, like, oh, not war, let's do love, in reaction to what's wrong in the world. And one of the problems with, when pendulum swings is the pendulum swings in reaction here, and then it swings back, which we've definitely seen in the last 50 years. But a big part of what the wild love movement isn't a reaction. It's not a political statement. It's a realignment at the core of our being to the highest vibration, the highest frequency of love. And how do we, as awake, activated individuals, open ourselves deeply to, not just our potential, because I think most people in the car are like, yeah, these ideals I get, but how do I download that deeply into all the dimensions of my body, including my wounding, right? Like, how do I get that all the way up, all the way down, so that I can live as love? And how do I do that? And I think this is the graduate work, right? It's like, then how do I do that in partnership? Because most of the priests and the monks and the lamas, like a lot of the really high spiritual practices historically have said, oh, cool, if you want to realize God, you got to cut off the personal relating, because that shit's going to drag you down and distract you.
Yeah, it's a huge distraction.
And so they spiritually bypass all the stuff that comes up with personal relating, which is your wounding, with so they miss out on the opportunity to heal all the deep, dark, challenging, regressive family of origin stuff, so that you can just put your attention on God. So the first distinction I want to offer is the distinction between the vertical and the horizontal. And so this vertical love, which, I'm talking about like a priest to God, or, we all have towards the divine. The vertical is our soul's connection at not just the level of the oversoul, but to the monad, or to the oneness, to the place where we're connected to infinite intelligence, or the universe, or whatever you want to call, but it's that like soul's connection to the source. And that vertical connection, is in all of us. And to some people it's highly cultivated. To some people that's what their whole life is oriented around. And for others it's like, meh, that's not where they draw their energy. And the horizontal, we all know, is way more the personality. It's like, oh, okay, I'm drawing my energy from my bonds, from my relationships, from my getting my needs met here, or meeting other people's needs, and my ability. And this is more like a web. It's not just, horizontal. It's like when we draw security from the web, from the tribe. And a lot of times people talk about like, I like this, which is node and network. But the horizontal is more personal, peer. There's more of an exchange, and this kind of relating is often transactional. It's like, okay, we're meeting each other's needs, and it's more at this, not just survival level, but it's more social level. So one of the things to note in all of our holy relationships, because we all have them, is, that we're like really important to get that we, as a conscious community of deep divers, are relating at both levels. And there's like a cross in the heart, because I have no illusions that you're just in transactional relationships. Like I know I see the divine in Michael, and a lot of the connections that we have are at the soul level, at the level of the oversoul, that our love is bigger than his meeting my needs, and that there's actually a God force that comes through our love making. And then there's the practical, like, he takes out the trash for me, and he does, like all of the amazing things. He's there when I'm emotionally need attunement, or just, I had a bladder infection and he ran off to get me medicine. And, there's those personal things. Now, the reason I'm reiterating all this is because I want to bring it home. And you all just did last week the sex magic ritual. And we know when we got into the sex magic ritual that it's like, wow, we're now entering into that extraordinary, and we're together going to the vertical. We're like really activating and cultivating together our relationship to the God inside of each other, but all that we're co-creators, and we're in partnership with the divine. And then sometimes in sex magic, we'll actually try to activate personal needs. And, like it can be for for more enlightenment, or it can also sometimes be like, hey, let's do sex magic and work on our bond, or have more, time, like, I want to have more time with you. And that could be something that you supercharge.
When we were in Alaska, we were just getting on the boat in Sitka. We had some pretty deep shamanic messaging in Sitka. Sitka is a pretty kind of pristine, ancient place of transition in Alaska from the Russians.
A port, yeah.
Yeah, from the Russian ownership of it to, taking over from the Eskimos, the Tlingit that were there. And as we were going through this, we were talking about the cosmology, and it struck me that here with the relationship deep dive, I know we promised that we would take your relationship from the personal to the soul level, right? And I realized that we're taking you beyond that. We're going past the soul level now, and we're going into this place that we call the mystery or the void. And it was kind of shocking for me at the time. I'm like, oh shit, we got to tell them, what we're doing, because it's not exactly what we advertised.
Well, that's the next distinction I want to bring up. Besides the cross in the center of the heart, the other distinction is the 3-ring model, which we alluded to last week. And I don't know if you have that. I mean, whatever. But basically that,
this,
when he was pointing this out last week, we were saying the void is at the center, and then we have the soul realm, and then the outer realm is the personality. But the truth is the void is also everywhere. Like the void's not, it's kind of like the non-dual nature of God. Like God is in one, God is in many. and whether you call it God or universe, it's
or dark energy, which is what they're talking about now. The scientists are realizing that 95% of the mass out there is not visible, that there's something else that they call dark energy. And it's that thing that we can't feel that's coming from that, that black hole at the center of the universe, or at the center of our galaxy.
And the sharing of this cosmology, sharing of this understanding can upgrade our relating, because we want to have our partnerships penetrate all those rings, like to be able to actually meet at the level of the personal, the identity, the ego, like, okay, we're running a business together and we're co-parenting and we're, getting our mortgage together, like that, all that personality part to meet there and to meet there in harmony. But then what we know, is that that's not the center of gravity. What we kind of said is we want to shift the center of gravity to the soul level, where the soul is really, the personality is in service to the soul, so that you're really seeing each other's essence and you're supporting that. Now, this is the biggest distinction, is when we put two souls together and you say our center of gravity is in the soul, well, now you have two centers of gravity. And what happens when you have two centers of gravity, maybe it's like, oh, we've got this binary star model, but the challenge of two centers of gravity is that it's going to polarize, and there will be, pulling and challenging. And it's almost like the integration, when one goes up, the other goes down, or, like the scales or the balance. And that's why we're saying we want to go beyond putting your soul and the relationship at the soul level. Even if, at the level of the oversoul, Michael and I are one soul. At the level of the oversoul, it's like this hand, right? So Michael might be here, I'm here, maybe Lisa and Greg and Tal and, like we're all different fingers, but at the hand level, we're connected. Like branches on a tree go to one trunk. Our soul group, we have a collective soul group here in the listening, in the connecting. We are one, but we're individuals. And we want to go, beyond the heart or the hand to the actual essence. And this is what, we're calling the void, the mystery. You can call it source, or the absolute. The words are never sufficient. Like there's no way to actually put a word on it, as long as we understand that there is a energy that moves through all matter as well as all space. And that energy is what we want to put above and below and in between the relating, so that we can actually take our relationship, not just, okay, it's my soul wants for your soul, and we're choosing to journey together in this grand adventure called life. Like our souls are journeying together, but what's beyond us, and when we dedicate it to something that's bigger than us, then the two of us are actually humbled before it. We're on the same team in a way that's in service to something much greater, which is not just the heart of humanity, but it's at the core of all things.
In my life, I've found comfort at times when my life has been really shitty, when things have been going, horribly, and it seemed like there was no way out. Often when I would study space, like listening to Carl Sagan or different things, it would give me a lot of comfort to know that, what I was doing was such a small thing. And I'm kind of relating this new way of seeing it like that as well, that all of these things that are happening in our inner souls and, interpersonal relating are just happening on this giant, field where we're going around this, this center of the galaxy. And so that's been a huge comfort for me.
And I want to share how this cosmology informs relationship design next. because, you know, and one of the things I want to like validate is that consciously or unconsciously, we're all abundantly successful, you know, as conscious, you know, relationships. Like, so our circle, it's like, wow, we're doing a lot of things right to be at this place, to be having these conversations. And some of that design was like unconscious, like something inside of us compelled us to create the relationship this way, and we don't even understand it. And then some of it was like, oh, I like personally, I'm standing on the shoulders of some masters, you know, like I could name, you know, Deborah Taj-Anapol, and I mentioned Bruce Lyon, but there's a lot of Charles Muir, and there's a lot of mentors whose relationship teachings got me to where I am. But then the bigger thing is the mystery. Like, there is something that could never be named and is beyond. And I want to acknowledge that when each of us made that choice, because there's something inside of us that chose our partners, you know, and it was like my soul picked him at some point. And we can say all the reasons, right? But honestly, it's a mystery. Like, why did your soul pick this beloved? Like, you know, you can try to justify it, but your mind can't. It's kind of like pointing towards something so much bigger than us. And then there comes that day or that moment when you made your vows. And, you know, something happens in the making of the vows where it's like, oh, well, let me try to put words to the ineffable mystery. And then, you know, you put words on it for the sake of, like, you know, like we're honoring the beloved or explaining to the community what it means to you. And then oftentimes that ceremony, like, how often do we rethink of that? Do we recover? Does that actually guide us? And what I want to suggest is that as we upgrade the conversation, we can actually upgrade. It's not about the words and the languaging, because sometimes it's like vows are, you know, oh, that's a ceremony, that's a ritual, and then it's dead or it's past. And I want to open that scroll and make it a living document. In other words, this is something that's evolving. The vows are something that's constantly being co-created. And by that, I mean, like in oral tradition, like when something is written, it's like, oh, it's been said. It's like, no, this is something that that grows inside of us. And it's the energy of it. It's not the actual vocabulary or the syntax or the wording. It's like the energy of it. And so the creating of the vows, like Michael said, it's like, oh, wait, when your consciousness extends, you want to extend your vows to go in the direction of like your potential. And so the invitation, and I'm just going to introduce the homework right now, because the invitation is for you to make vows at all three of those levels. So it's like, well, what are you committed to at the personality level, right? Like, if there's a cross at the center of your heart, there's a horizontal exchange that's happening here. What do you actually, how do you want to show up to the personal relationship? Like, who do you need to be to bring out the best in your partner in the personal? And then at the vertical, like at the soul level, what's your commitment at the soul level? What's your vision? What's your, inspiring potential there? And then to go beyond that and to say that at the level of the mystery or God or source, and you can name it or not, but what's your commitment there? So in essence, we're asking you each to come up with 3 dimensions of vows. And there can be, other considerations, or because it's yours, it's personal and it's evolving. And the idea is not to be a perfectionist, not to allow yourself to be like, this is a work in progress. This is an evolution or a rough draft. So specifically.
Yeah. So the way I did it, I wrote down, you can see it here, personal, soul, and mystery. And then I wrote out what I had in mind for those areas. And then a couple of days ago, we went down to the beach and we had a ceremony where we cleaned out our cauldron in the ocean, and we went under a tree and we went through them. And Kamala Devi talked about hers, and I wrote down what she had put, what she had in mind. And then we're in that process now of tying those together.
Yeah, so it was we pulled some tarot cards, we brought a crystal. You do whatever's authentic for you to be like, hey, let's create a sacred space. Let's drop in. And then, what's moving for you at the level of personal? He shared, I shared, we kind of talked about it. And
would this be a good time for me to just read some of them? Sure,
but let me first give you the full homework so you have an understanding of what we're asking you to do. Okay, so this ideally this week, and part of the pressure of saying like, oh my gosh, do it this week, is that I really want it to be imperfect. I highly encourage you to do it so that when we come together for the mastermind next week, you can say, here's how it went. And so the shortened time of it allows you to just be like, okay, well, here's a draft of what's here for me personally.
And I found that by doing it very quickly, the impulse things were actually the deeper ones.
Yeah.
Because they were coming from not such a place of thinking, I got to think it out for half an hour. I did this in like 5 minutes. I put down, the parts that I wanted, and it was really good because it came from that.
Yeah.
Really from the subconscious.
It was really good. And it was really profound for me. Michael initiated this. Like, we got this massive download at the ship, and then he's like, this is what's coming through. Let's, redo this. And this is not paperwork. In other words, it like radically reorganized us. And it's not about like last week where we're like, let's do this juicy ritual. The ritual is just like, hey, create something to hold you while you move into the deep heart.
Sorry, you don't get a juicy ritual this week.
Sorry,
guys.
You can totally consummate it with sex. You can, do it however you want to do it. But the idea is these 3 dimensions. And just to be in the curiosity and the inquiry. Now, for those of you, it's so beautiful because I know Greg and Marina, you had a hand fasting, and it's like, cool, let's upgrade. And then Tal and Alex, obviously it's been a year. It's like, let's upgrade. I posted an article about, a popular cultural recommendation that couples actually renew their vows every year, as opposed to just, oh yeah, what did we say back then? It's like, let's keep it a living thing. But to do this together in a white hot creative fashion. And then the ultimate thing, because obviously this is not real pretty, but it's like you could, and this is this month, type it up, make it like a ketubah, which in the Jewish culture is like, your relationship agreement vision on a scroll or parchment or paper where the community can see it. And so you could do with it whatever you want. You could post it on Facebook if you want. It's really about, how do I consciously upgrade my multidimensional partnership? And then notice alchemically what happens as a result of just harmonizing it, just the 2 of you realigning to that.
Just make sure you don't chisel it onto stone tablets, because then it means you're not going to change it for 1,000 years. And that's not right.
So, what I'd like to do, and more than happy to read ours, but I wanted more looking at the time. I want to hear from you, questions, comments. Let's make this real. What do you need to feel empowered and aligned to get the most out of this week?
Yeah, and who has impulses around it, that are coming up that can kind of help enlighten the rest of the group? Yeah, go ahead, Lisa.
Oh, we needed a laugh, and you gave us one by using that word ketubah.
Oh.
Our ketubah from our wedding almost 25 years ago is in a dusty box frame in our garage. And we just like move it from house to house, and like we can't throw it out because it's our good tuba.
Exactly.
And it's such a great metaphor.
I think it's leaning up against a dusty ladder.
I think it is.
Yeah.
Fingers.
That's
Yes.
awesome.
Oh my God. Oh.
It's so perfect. You know, your 25th year of marriage and you're like, hey, let's redo this.
Maybe letting go of the katuba, actually, maybe that's our ritual.
Yeah,
Like,
I can think of a few things to do with it.
You know, I just had a interesting like visualization.
Yeah.
I just had an interesting visualization around that, Lisa. I mean, the whole idea of what we're talking about, to be able to take that thing that's 25 years old and then, you know, maybe reframe it side by side with the current, you know, sit and do something super intentionally with current state and where you want to be moving, and then overlay those with each other. I think the delta there could be so powerful. I mean,
even, yeah.
to be able to think in those terms, because we've been sort of hypothesizing lately about what our renewed vows might look like.
Great.
That being able to see, and so I've started to sort of done something similar. Such a powerful little hint to our own evolution and our own growth, not only as individuals but as a couple.
Yeah, or even turning it around and using the back of it, you know, like there's, yeah, it's beautiful suggestion, Todd. So is everybody clear on this concept of like, what are your vows at the personal level versus transpersonal versus soul? Is that clear that the request is looking at those? And
No, I see Lisa shaking her head.
All right, so Michael and I talked about this Trinity, because it's not just like, ooh, this is Ista cosmology. It's like at the heart of trans lineages, like wisdom traditions across the world, there's the Holy Trinity. And so, you know, if we just take, you know, we take the Christian cosmology, there's the Son, the Holy Ghost, and the Father. And what that is like, you know, the Son is of the flesh. It's like he's of form. The Holy Ghost is the spirit, right? And it's like the Father is, you know, the Judeo-Christian concept of God. But we're looking at those three dimensions and saying, what are our vows at in the level of form? What are we vowing to? What are we committing to in the level of, and a perfect example of this is like Tony Robbins, when we were teaching needs, it's like we have personal needs and values. And sometimes when you get married, you don't want to say, oh, like my deep need is to be heard and listened to. Michael's deep need is for like respect and inclusion. When you get married, you're like, I actually am agreeing to marry, like to respect this person, to include them, right? This is like part of the personal exchange.
One of mine was to stay healthy,
yeah.
You know, which is about as physical as it gets. And then to clear resentments, to come back to a beautiful state as quickly as possible. I vowed to lean into love in difficult times.
And is that your personal level that you're sharing?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah. So you want to look at your
examples of all three.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
go ahead.
We're getting there.
Go ahead. Yeah. So just let me finish talking about personal so you get really clear. Is there any other questions on personal? Because you may want to look at like, who do I need to be to show up and really bring out the best of my beloved on the personal level, right? Because we're not vowing, this is very different than the work table. You know, you're not like, I need you to vow this to marry me. It's more like, whoa, wait a minute. I'm going to make a commitment to show up for you personally. Like in traditional, I'd be like in sickness and health, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or
for better or for worse.
Yeah. And so who do you personally want to be in this partnership? That's what that vow is. And Michael gave you an example there.
Yeah, I vow to lean into love in difficult times, to clear resentments.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I'm vowing, that's a big one for me. Like I've held resentments, for 20 years. And now I'm vowing that I'm going to clear those,
Can I speak to that? I want to give voice, if that's okay, just for 2 seconds.
Sure.
Please.
Because it's important for me to get this off my chest right now. So I have a background that includes what we would refer to in psychology as complex trauma. So my predisposition in a personal kind of setting is to operate from a place of being traumatized, fear, retreat, etc. So one of my personal goals in relationship with both Renee and Lori is to do the work on myself that allows me to move farther away from, because I don't know that we ever fully disavow trauma, but to move as far away as possible from operating from a traumatized place and to operate from the wholeness of my true spirit all the time. So that the person that shows up is a fully realized, both internally, sexually, emotionally, to be the fullest realized, freest version of myself, so that I can come to relationship completely free to give and receive in relationship. That's my personal goal in relationship right now. And the farther I can move away from that wounding to what feels true in my soul right now, I think, Michael, that this is right in line with the same kind of things you were talking about in terms of specifics, like letting go of resentments, etc.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's beautiful.
Todd, I want to make a deeper distinction, and I think I'll use your example for everybody, if you're okay. Like, so, and by the way, I have complex trauma, complex childhood trauma as well. That was when I understood that diagnosis, I was like, yay, that empowers me to understand what the fuck is going on, and then when the diagnosis is disempowering, I'm like, I don't want to use it then. But it is very valuable to be like, okay, this is a thing. But what I want to tell the group is the distinction between personal growth and enlightenment work. Okay. And this is the distinction that we're talking about between, the personal and the transpersonal. These are different dimensions. I saw, and then the other, okay, and here's another distinction. I'm really excited to introduce this one because it's David Data's distinction, which is function, flow, and glow. And David Data uses the example of how you could have a Tai Chi master that has the most amazing flow, and maybe he's been teaching it for 30 years, but he's a total asshole with no, and maybe he doesn't know how to balance his checkbook, right? But his energy, his flow could be great. And just because he is a Tai Chi master does not mean he's enlightened. Like, glow is God realization. Flow is, hey, I'm a yogini or a gymnast, or, I have those, I'm an energy master, can practice. I'm a psychic, anything in the flow. This is the transpersonal soul realm. That's different than personal, because at the personal level, like life coaches will tell you, you are showing up with integrity. You can, make appointments and meet them, and you can you have function. You're functioning in life, and that's often at the psychological level. So when Todd, you were sharing, it reminded me of a Facebook post. I wish I should print this one out, but it's like, your extraordinary gifts don't make your brokenness go away. And your brokenness, like your extraordinary brokenness, like doesn't diminish your superpowers. Like, we can have both. And that's what I really want people to get is, that we are all gifted. We have these superpowers, and we all have our brokenness. And part of a real, true, healthy, balanced marriage is not just I'm marrying you and I'm high and holy, but we're actually deeply in the shadow. I'm marrying your shadow too. Like, I get that this beloved has wounding and I'm willing to show up for it.
And I'm willing to look at my own wounding, within the relationship, which is what Todd is kind of leaning to. That's beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah. It's really beautiful. So the biggest distinction that, I heard you, Todd, and you're like, this is my relationship goal. And I'm saying working on the psychological wounding, is like overcoming the wounding, getting far away from it. Michael's letting go of his resentments. That's all personal. But then at the transpersonal, when we start talking about, because you started to mix it and be like, oh, I'm the highest version of self and I'm like in my God self, like that's actually more going into the other dimensions. And we're, as a practice, asking you to kind of separate those out.
Yeah, and as a practice, I get that those things can be distinguished, but as a whole organism, I believe that they're radically interdependent.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So it is absolutely true, like this cross in the middle of our heart, like you can't just be transpersonal. You crumble, right? You can't just be personal. I mean, you can, but then you're soulless, right? So, so the intention is not to fracture compartmentalize people. It's more to bring, the reason we're saying make vows at all three is to bring more holisticness to your vows so that your vows are well-rounded.
Yeah.
And this is more essential. Like I could have said, hey, you guys, we already identified we had you remember we had a 10-point compatibility thing and we did it on the workbook. And it's like, I don't want you to make 10 different vows. I'm just saying, make sure that you are really evolving at the personal level, evolving at the soul level, as well as at the God level.
I think we should jump into the
Questions.
next levels. If anybody has questions too, but just so that we can distinguish the different levels.
Oh, okay. You wanted to.
Yeah. Does somebody else have a question? Yeah, go ahead, Marina.
Question. I totally understand the 3 levels, what you were talking about, personal, transpersonal, and interpersonal and all that. However, I do feel that they do conflict somewhere sometimes.
Yeah.
For example, just like, when we are, in that transpersonal level, it's like we all want free love. We all just want to love each other and this bubble of love. But when we go to the personal level, it's like, oh my God, if he's getting more love somewhere else and I'm not, then, the personality takes over. So I actually need, safety, and it's about me, myself, and I all of a sudden.
Yeah.
So that's how it's like, I understand that the intention is greater, but I guess the question is like, how do you balance it all out? Or where, because I understand at the cross level, sometimes like that goes higher and this one is somewhere over here. So it's not quite in the middle, right?
Right.
And I think it's the mind or the emotions or all of it that just goes, oh my God, I'm all in myself and this is what's priority here now.
Yeah.
I understand that the compass is like, we were looking at the Northern Star yesterday and it's like, I know where the North Star is. Like, I know where we have to go and I feel it on the soul level, but that personality is a bummer sometimes,
Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah. So the personality can really overwhelm us a lot of times. I hear that, and I've experienced it too. The way I looked at it for my vows was that that I'm, being responsible for that personality part, and that's my vow. I vow that I will, take care of these personal, problems, that I'll bring myself to a beautiful state as quickly as possible. That's kind of a general one. That's the way Kamala Devi and I talk, about this beautiful state. And that sort of encompasses the things about jealousy and the other ones. I vow to lean in, to love in difficult times.
Yeah. So let me give you a bigger cosmology. Thank you for the individual example. When Marina said, I know where the North Star is, I just, and it's like, I know where I want to go, And when you look at a map, you're like, you are here. The reality is you are here. This is what I want to transmit to everyone about wild love. And it's at the absolute edge of my own understanding. Polyamory, and this is actually the next distinction that I wanted to bring into the conversation, and it's about the strategy and the structure of your relationship. Now, today, originally, by the way, the intention was like, hey, let's go over relationship agreements and how to create agreements and how to blah, 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 blah. That was actually where we were going to go. And I have, if you haven't listened, an awesome teaching on that for you, recorded on the Beyond Monogamy audio, which you all got as a bonus for this call. So I'm not going to go into that. But I want you to know that polyamory as a relationship paradigm is often agreement based. Like, there are lots of different kinds of non-monogamy, and polyamory is only one. And in general, people who are practicing polyamory are often making agreements in order to provide security, to provide safety, to, in some ways, manage or navigate their jealousy. And a lot of polyamory is, okay, yeah, we want free love and we want to be fully, but the reality is we know that the world's, our programming doesn't allow us, or our wounding doesn't allow us. So who do I need to be, or how do I need to show up so that we can create an agreement where you're not all the time broken or upset or challenged, and that you can actually digest your pains or your insecurity at a rate that's metabolizable. So at a metabolic rate, so that you can actually be in love enough, right? So that there's less process, more love.
If you want to
yeah, I do.
Okay.
But polyamory is not the only kind of love. And so, Michael's printed this out. You've probably all seen this before.
From Franklin Vows. It's kind of the Venn diagram of different types of relationships, where there's polyamory is part of open relating.
Yes, if you see open relating as a whole, is like, oh, these are all open relating. That includes swinging. That includes, some of the BDSM and poly, and
don't ask, don't tell, which is right close to the cheating part. But
right.
By coincidence, I don't know if that's coincidence or not.
But we see that, cheating is not, it's, don't ask, don't tell, I think is
right down there, yeah.
Okay, got it. But anyway, the point is that, cheating is not open relating. Soft swing is not open relating. Closed group swinging is not open. There's different that say
polygamy, right?
So it's really fun to geek out about the different styles. What wild love is actually not. It's none of these, and it's all of these. It's a mystical path, and a lot of people, like, who's heard of relationship anarchy, which may or may not be on there.
It's probably not.
Right. So there's a big movement with relationship anarchy, which is often like, oh, I don't want the labels and the agreements and the structures. But relationship anarchy is like a political, again, pendulum swinging against the overstructure that is polyamory, right? So it's in reaction to something. And wild love is not saying I'm refusing the labels and structures, nor is it saying I'm accepting those. What it's saying at core is I'm putting love in the center. And so the North Star is what I'm aspiring towards, the biggest frequency of love. And when I'm relating to someone, one or more people, that we're actually in the intention, we're all evolving towards the biggest love. And that Michael, in following love, may find his soul draws him to somebody else and has a really important exchange to have with that someone. And my personality might fucking freak out and go, I don't like that person. I don't like whatever. So now in this paradigm, the mystical path of putting the soul first, the soul's at the center of the gravity, the important medicine he needs at the soul level is not put on the same level as my wounding and activation in the moment. Now, what would happen in this example is if I truly trust, okay, Michael's doing something I want for his soul. He needs to have that exchange. My personality is totally fucking regressed, traumatized, broken down. That's my wounding. I'm not going to let my wounding set the pace of his soul. So I'm going to go get resourced, get support, try to work on this, come back into love so that I can connect to my true north. And then from that place, you know, and my best version of self, I'm going to come and see, okay, where are we? What's the medicine between our souls? But ultimately, if, for example, his soul continues to journey him in that direction, and I continue, like, I might need to be like, whoa, I need to actually take care of me. And like, I'm not able to travel at that pace or at that rate or that. And it's super challenging to say this, you know, like, we're all here as pair bonded. I'll say we're all here because we're pair bonded. And in order to be pair bonded, we're saying, hey, let's move at a rate that works for everybody so we can move together. And while love is not even promising, you know, like these vows aren't going to say till death do us part. It's like saying we're committed to love, you know, at the center of it, and our souls being expressed. And if, for example, our souls take us in different directions, or my personality can't serve the soul, then I might need to take space from, or slow down, or take care of me. And I'm not suggesting that all of you, you know, like, take wild love as your new vow. I'm just saying that what happens, Marina, when you say, okay, I've been taught, because, you know, you've been taught by myself and other poly teachers to not drink the poly punch only, and say, what else, what, it doesn't always have to be agreement based in order to take care of my personal needs. What would it look like to reorient my relationship and put soul at the center, or put love at the center? And maybe my relationship would have to change. And I'm not saying, I'm just saying, just be in the inquiry. Because as destabilizing as that sounds to those of us who've identified as, you know, as married or in partnership first, it could actually also bring us to a deeper communion with the truth of our heart, or who we are, or our purpose on the planet.
Yeah, and I want to say something on this too, because as threatening as it sounds, as I was listening, I'm like, oh my God, that sounds so scary, you know, so destabilizing. The truth is that we're in these partnerships because our souls chose each other, and doing that work, even though it might be scary as we do it, it really, ultimately, you're going to come to a place where it, you know, there is a soul communion. I guarantee it. All of you that are here, you know, have, you know, proven that. Now, it's not the case with everybody, but I know everybody here, and I know that that's the case. That even though it looks like, oh, you know, I married the wrong person, I need to be out, you know, somewhere else. That's just a reaction to the medicine that's coming in right now. And if you can just kind of work with it, it's gonna level out, and it's gonna level out at a place that's way higher. We were in the same place, you know, 3-4 years ago, 5 years ago.
One time a news reporter on national TV asked you, Michael, so what if Kamal Devi finds somebody she loves more than you? And Michael said, like, totally centered, relaxed,
Straight-faced.
Yeah, he's like, you know, if she finds someone that she loves more than me, or that loves her more than me, I would want her to be with that person. And he fucking meant it. And I was like, I love you so much because he said that, right? Like, wow.
And our relationship is designed so that, you know, she can have that, and me as well. You know, our souls are open, as all of you guys are.
So I did want to introduce wild love in that context, and not like, even the thread is even making that a label, or trying to define that. Because if you ask Bruce Lyon and the circle of visionaries who are like, hey, let's redefine love and let's call it wild, part of the wildness is that there isn't a definition for it. It's just, how do we put love in the center?
I think that we should get onto the structure of the other two areas first, and also just to let you guys know, even if you don't get the homework done or get it right this week, we're going to have the thing next Sunday as well, and we'll be able to tweak at that time. I'm really excited actually to hear what comes up for people in the other levels, in the soul level and in the mystery or void level.
Mm-hmm. Soul, do you want to read
soul, yeah. So what I came up with, what we came up with is that synergy, that on the soul level, that we would feel an inseparability and move as one, which would allow us into our other connections, allow us to allow other connections to come in, because our soul is working so well together.
Yeah, we're having a really strong experience as we, especially right now, because I'm so I would say like altered in the new love energy that I have with Harry. But a big part of what informs that is just like Harry is in relationship with Kamala, Debbie, and Michael in a really deep way. Like that's like I'm moving as, I'm inseparable from Michael. And so even though I'm having this relationship on the side, I feel that I dedicate that to this, and it brings it back. At the soul level, I feel really connected to Michael, that there's no taking Michael out of me. And that's reflected in this transpersonal vow.
It's funny. It's almost like a package deal for swingers, but it's a package deal for souls.
Energetically.
Yeah, it's an energetic package deal.
But what I added to this transpersonal thing, which I don't think we could read because the writing is so bad, is that for me, it's really important that our relationship serves the tribe, that not just as role models, but my vow is that we, that the fucking love we generate here doesn't belong to us, that it belongs to the universe, that we give back with our love, by our co-creations, by our generosity, that we serve the community with the love we generate.
And that was our vows, our original vows, I guess 7 years ago, or whatever, however long ago that was, when we did our vows. And like Todd is talking about, what we're doing is we're tuning those up and we're kind of putting them next to each other. That it's not completely bad or wrong that we're getting rid of the old ones.
It's just including that and transcending to more.
Yeah. And Renee, did you have a question?
I did, because when, and maybe this is just specific to our situation, but maybe it's not. The thing that was coming up for me when you were introducing the 3 levels is so Todd has a committed relationship with Lori. Todd has a committed relationship with me. And at a certain level, Lori and I, while not a sexual relationship, still a committed relationship that makes the balance of it all work.
Absolutely.
And then the 3 of us have a commitment at some level. And so I was struck when you were introducing the 3 levels of making those vows at 3 levels. But I was struck that I feel this calling for us to do it almost as inclusive of those other relationships.
Yeah.
Because no one pair bond actually
it's not complete without the other. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I get it.
That's how the tribe becomes the tribe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. When we did our actual marriage, we, our other lovers actually were part of the ceremony in a very similar way. And I'm really open to you guys saying, hey, let's have a ritual with her and see what gets co-created there. Absolutely.
And that's very real for us, because what's happening is Lori and I have moved into a very intentional, committed, and in a very clear way at this point, monogamous. So open with Renee, monogamous with Lori, which means Renee is my only other lover.
Yeah.
And that's for now in service of the soul growth.
Yeah.
Now that is how I will allow it to be, because
I completely respect, understand, and I invite the three of you to do this work with her. And that's beautiful. I know. Yeah, I mean, the piece that I can say is there is a soul contract between
totally,
all of you, and as you're upgrading your consciousness in this partnership, including her, and feel free, by the way, to show her. I mean, I give you consent. I don't know about everybody else on the video, but to show her this video if she wants some context of what that ritual's about. Yeah. Okay, so let's talk about
Is there any other complaints? Anybody that would mind having her see the video? Okay, put your hand up now if so. If not, okay, cool.
I have a question just for clarity. It seems like, Michael, you said that as a soul level, you guys would like feel so connected that you move as one, that you kind of show up as one. And then the next one, Kamala Devi said, was that our love serves the entire tribe. Is that still at level 2, or is that moving into the void when you're going?
No, that's level 2. That's transpersonal. So the shaman serves the tribe. That's transpersonal. That's the soul dharma. That is level 2. Yeah.
Yeah, which I know, Greg, that you work a lot in that world, and so I understand the question. I believe I can kind of feel what you're driving at, and as we get into that third level right now, I think it might help to inform that.
Guys, I have to tell you that my experience of evolved relationships so far, organically, is absolutely in almost perfect alignment with what you're describing. So there is some meat and some truth in here that I think is transcendent.
Yeah.
Yay! Thank you, Todd. I appreciate it.
So I think the key on before we read our specifics, the key on the third level is that this is like, we all know, I think last week or whenever we talked about Renee's ayahuasca experience, but we've all done enough psychedelics or even had psychedelic experiences during sex when, like, the veils lift and we are in direct experience of reality, which is, in reality, there's not all these distinctions and separations and labels and definitions. In like unmitigated reality, we're in oneness. Like, we have the experience of the absolute, and that absolute experience is also an eternal, and it's entered through the present moment, but it's absolutely eternal. And this vow is a vow from the immortal self. So we're coming into a dimension that's truly transcendent of, our highest concept of God, even though it's not God, it's not a concept. And so anything that you say in this vow, it's like, it's not going to you can't put it into words. So we're just pointing in the direction of something much, much bigger than the partnership, which is.
Yeah. So what came up for me was, I will take time to hear the silence and the void. So for me, it was more of almost an awareness that I would, keep my focus, keep my antenna open, keep the channel tuned to that void place. Because I'm not a master at it. It's not something that comes naturally for me yet. But my vow is to
cultivate that.
Yeah, cultivate it.
Yeah.
Going forward.
And my vow is about embodying it. I have these transcendental experiences of it, and I also access it in my womb, and I feel it deep in lovemaking when it will permeate. But I want to bring it all the way up, all the way down in my body, in my, daily, everyday motion and movement. I don't remember what I actually said, but
and one of the things that did come up as we were fleshing it out was that we will, be on the frequency of continuous peace.
Mm-hmm.
And that kind of came up, for us just as a couple, that we're going to be in this place of peace, and we're going to be emanating this place of peace, which is part of our soul purpose as well, which is peace, but embodying that.
Yeah. And there's void and mystery can put us in awe. It can put us, one of the things that happens to me if I meditate, if I sit and meditate, and this is just transparent sharing with you as peers, like I'm a fucking channel, and what'll happen is I'll get a download of all kinds of inspirations. That's not the same as void. Like inspirations of like, I got to write this book and make this play and fix this person's relationship. And I'm like, no, I need to drop deeper into the void. And it doesn't happen to me when I'm sitting still. It's actually, void happens to me when I'm in my eros. Like people access void very differently. And Bruce has all these teachings about some people access it through their eros, some people through their motion, some people need to meditate, some people need darkness, like whatever. The point is for me, or point is for you, is how do you access God, or those oneness states, and what is your commitment from that or to that in your partnership? That's all. Mm-hmm. So we're coming up towards the end of the call, and I want to just hear, I think the homework's been impeccably clear. Now I want to hear what was the most valuable thing, or whatever you need to say for closure as we go around the circle.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
Don't all jump up at once.
Well,
I'll go first. Then.
Okay.
I'll defer to my beautiful wife.
Thank you. Well, I think the thing that I'm struck by is going back to one of my ayahuasca journeys, the fact that I was told by Spirit to talk to him about burning our marriage contract so it could be rewritten.
Great.
Wow.
Yeah.
So I feel like there are no coincidences. That now feels like a really good time for this exercise. And I do feel called to do it on all of the levels of the relationship, or all of the levels of
Consciousness.
Space, time, consciousness, dimensionality, and then all of the in all of the balance of the relating that we're doing.
Good. Sweet.
Awesome.
So just I want everyone to distill down your final takeaway just so we can get all the way around the circle. So good.
Mine's really brief. I really appreciate the reflection and the summarization of the work that you guys have been doing, because the work that we're doing in real time in the wild organically is a absolute mirror reflection of what you're describing. So to me, that's a key indicator that I'm on the right path and I'm in the right vicinity. So I am genuinely moved by the reflection, especially right now, because there's a lot of powerful awareness showing up here. So thank you.
Yeah. Beautiful.
Aho.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'll go. Alex and I are just about to do our vows again. It's our anniversary next week. So we were going to do that. So this was perfect for us.
Yep.
And I think that maybe including more of the God, more of the glow. And some visits would be good. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I know, Greg, you had your hand up.
Yeah, well, I was going to ask Michael, will you be posting that diagram? I think that would be really helpful for me. And I think, Kamala, that was the third distinction you were going to share, is that there's so many various ways of organizing the relationship and stuff. So I'm excited because it is our anniversary. We're going to go out into the teepee tonight. We're going to do a shamanic medicine journey. It's our kind of cycle. It's the full moon cycle, is which we did our hand fasting. So it's perfect timing for this exercise. Perfect.
Yay.
I'm excited about that. I'm also excited about being able to flexible, the evolution of it, and getting that North Star dialed in so that we can be flexible and evolve it, because we still have another month or so of the kind of the temporary closing that we put in on the relationship.
Yeah.
And so we get to reevaluate that and kind of look beyond. So I'm excited.
Great.
Oh, and one more question.
Yeah.
Will you be putting in the actual, in the Facebook group, like the directions for the homework? Because I do get the general concept, but it would be nice to have them written out.
Sure. I'll do that.
Thanks.
Great. Marina?
My takeaway is the whole realignment of what the center of our relationship is and the center of galaxy is. Because we can get so focused on the personality or the earth or the sun, but it's beyond that. And then allowing us to be pulled by that.
Yeah.
So I don't know what it looks like yet, but I'm very excited.
Great. Great. After we hear from Lisa and Greg, I want to reinforce the metaphor. So we'll close with that. Lisa.
Very timely for us. And I know we're trying to be quick, so I think that's all there's time to say, but very timely for us.
You have a minute. I'm glad it's timely. What's bubbling up?
I just blew up my relationship with my other partner yesterday because of an agreement violation. So I started this class feeling like a preschooler in a calculus class, and now I'm just going, holy shit.
Yeah. You may want to, just as brothers, you may want to check in with Michael. He's also
I think we did it at the same time, maybe down to the minute. Greg.
Wow.
All right.
And yeah, so thank you guys for that. And I do appreciate and want to welcome our conversations about our other lovers as well.
And this is timely for us too. Like this is just part of the cosmology, whatever fancy word you use that I won't understand. Is part of the, what's happening for us. That's just, it's in the mix. It's like when you said, Michael, the people on this call, and we have a soul connection, and no matter whatever you said, it was like, fuck, he's talking to us, he's talking to me, he's talking to Greg. Like, it was just, so, it's super timely. There's a lot of explosion. There's like a lot of exploding happening, and the shrapnel sort of suspended in animation right now. And I think,
yeah. And for me, it feels like a lot of my past and present and future are all collapsing on each other right now.
Yeah, it's beautiful. It is a wormhole or a portal. When we actually did our vows, Michael was saying we're sending this to the past. We're experiencing this fully now. We're opening it into the future. Like it was a shamanic rewriting of the timeline. Like, we live in a multiverse, and we were switching timelines. We wrote these vows to say, hey, we've been on this trajectory. Let's upgrade that. And let's change the trajectory. And the trajectory we're changing is to be, hey, we've been in a soul-centered relationship for the last 5 years, and it's been fucking exquisite. And now let's put the mystery at the center. And so the metaphor that I want to leave you all with, just to reinforce it, is that at the level of function and form, we have the earth, right? So we are, think of the personal. The earth is really personal. The personality, how things, the whole ecology, right? And the soul the sun is the soul. So a lot of times what we'll have when Earth is having, for example, meteorological, like we have moods, like the weather is the moods, the various emotion, the emotional body is like, sometimes it'll be cloudy or stormy and we can't even see the sun. But then the sun comes out and we're like, oh, the soul is back, you know, and it's like, we know it's there even when we can't see it because the emotions are happening, right? So we've got the earth and the sun. Well, the moon, which waxes and wanes, but also is moving through us, is our eros. It's our life force energy. Our, you know, it pulls on us and inspires us. And the moon, you know, has this, like, it activates our body, like it pulls our tides, it activates it, it kind of animates us in ways. But the sun and the moon, you know, are really still ruled by, and the parent of that, and the higher soul, is the black hole at the center of the galaxy, the ultimate mystery and void. And to the best of our ability in this week and, you know, these coming months, is to say, how can I listen to that? How can I reorient to the true center and not be pulled by the weather, not be just, you know, like following the sun, but let me go beyond the soul. Like, what is the highest and the deepest, you know, energy emanation, and to be aligned with the soul, the hole in the center of the galaxy, and, or, you know, the galaxies are going around the universe, but to orient towards that, the deepest way to access it is to actually orient towards the core of the earth, to really go deep into the electromagnetic field and to feel the crystalline core of the earth. And this is something that, again, because we're these Taurian beings, right? It's like, instead of being like, now I'm farther out there and I'm disembodied, or I'm transcending into some, you know, we don't want to go into light bodies and astral bodies. We want it to be awakened from within. Because at the center of the galaxy, just like at the center of your eye, the iris, like there is dark energy that goes inside every cell, every atom at the center of the nucleus. And that's the energy we want to activate, is that dark energy that's everywhere. It's not just out there. It's, you know, and that alignment helps us kind of rearrange our cosmology. But the truth is that it exists in the depths of our being all the time. And in the depths of our relating too. You know, when we can really drop it beyond the personality and we can really drop into the God force that's, you know, that's here.
Yeah. And it's kind of overwhelming to even think about, but, you know, we talk about the center of the galaxy, and there's, you know, 200 billion galaxies out there, you know, in the known universe. And there's some other center out there, but, you know, our minds and our, you know, who we are is not able to get there yet. But that's what we're asking of you, is to just open up to that mystery and use those metaphors, you know, to work, you know, within you, you know, to feel into that.
And I'm open to grabbing a cup of coffee to spin off this conversation right there about universes anytime.
Awesome. Well, let's create a wonderful rest of the Sunday and week, and we'll be in touch until next week's mastermind.
We'll see you next week.
Yeah. Blessings.
Blessings.
Bye, guys.
Stop recording.